What does it mean to make the right choices?
If you choose your actions based on pleasure, pain, you are in trouble. As I said, ideal reason for a person to act is his obligatory duties.
Namaste. Welcome to Wellness Wisdom. Today we will talk about choices and actions. We have in our studio Shri Ish, who is a proponent of Vedanta. Namaste, sir. Sir, in the last episode, we spoke about the intellect making choices. What does it mean to make the right choices?
Choice means you say yes to something and no to something. That's the basic understanding of choice. Now, on what basis you say yes to one and no to other? There are two options we have. One is I say this based on my likes. I like something, so I do. I don't like something, therefore I don't do. There is another thing where you make those choices based on what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, what is right and what is wrong. So we make choices based on pleasure, pain, likes and dislikes, plus right and wrong. So we have to make the choices based on pleasure, pain, right, wrong. If you choose your actions based on pleasure, pain, you are in trouble. And you can see all your problems in life, you can trace it back to this singular factor of making choices based on what is pleasant to me, avoiding what is unpleasant to me. Contrast to that is where you do things with authenticity, authentic choices. That is, choices made based on your conviction rather than your idea of pleasure, pain, idea of right and wrong versus idea of pleasure and pain. So this is the choices in life. Now this choice is available only for human beings. No other creature has this choice in life. They all live a beaten path. A cow has no choice in what it should eat, how much it should eat. A cow can never overeat, nor an elephant or an ant. Doesn't matter. None of them can have overeating or fasting. It is only human beings who overeat and fast. So, on what basis you are making your choices? Two options you have. Pleasure, pain driving your choices, right, wrong driving your choices. If you make the choices based on pleasure, pain, you are in trouble. If you make your choices on right and wrong, you are set in your life. This is the choice.
When we make these choices, sir, how do we know that it is right or wrong? Is it right or wrong for us, right or wrong for somebody else? How does it function? Do we have a goal towards which it is right or wrong?
See, this is a modern generation's problem where we are so clear about life. There are certain things which gives me joy, pleasure. There are certain things gives me sorrow, pain. All of us agree to that. There is something called pleasure, there is something called pain. But currently we all keep saying there is no such thing called right and wrong in life, sir. It is all grey. There is no absolute right and wrong. What we say is no. If there is pleasure, pain, clearly demarcated as two different things, then there has to be this right and wrong also clearly being demarcated. But the problem is, what is it that is defining this right and wrong is your buddhi, intellect. Since the current generation lacks that intellect, that penetrative thinking capacity. What I meant by intellect is the penetrative thinking capacity. Means the capacity to see beyond the obvious. You would have seen traditionally women having they plait their hair. You don't have, but you would have seen, right?
Right.
They plait their hair. To your eyes, you will see there are two strings. There will be two. But factually there is three. Now the question is, where is the third? Is it hidden? Is it hiding itself? No, it's not hiding itself. But when you see, you cannot see three, you see only two. So, intellect is that capacity to see the two strings, but understand there are three. This is where the problem comes. Now, since the third one is invisible, that's what Aristotle, I think, he says, intellect is invisible to a man who has none. He says, intellect is invisible. It's not visible to the person who lacks intellect. Same way, when we are making choices, we need to have that penetrative thinking capacity to understand whether my choices were based on that conviction. That's what I meant. On the conviction means, what are you convinced about in life? This is the appropriate thing I should do in life. This is inappropriate. On what basis I am saying this is appropriate? What is appropriate for one generation will be considered inappropriate to the other generation. What is appropriate for one person, like in a crowded bus, there is a conductor issuing tickets. He saw one old lady getting into the bus and struggling to get a seat. So he took pity on her and said, please, ma, you take my seat. He offered his seat. And that old lady sat down and she blessed him. And all the people in the bus, they were all praising the conductor. Oh, what a sacrificial man he is. Very sweet he is. All that. There's another fellow who overheard that. In the next stop, another old lady got in. As soon as that old lady got into the bus, this fellow got up and gave his seat. That's a driver. Imagine if driver gives his seat. You see that?
Yeah.
This is where we need to understand what is appropriate to one.
Correct.
Need not be appropriate to the other.
Correct.
Now, how are you going to decide? This is where intellect comes into picture. Knowledge comes into picture. Understanding comes into picture. So, when you have to decide whether my choices are right, this is one part of the story. There is another part to the story. You say, see, in life, you make the choices appropriately, rightly, no. You decide and make it right. Because most of us, when we are asking this question, sir, am I making a right choice? We always decide based on the consequence of the choice. If the consequence of the choice were to be palatable, agreeable, hindsight will say the choice that I have made earlier is correct. If the consequence were to be painful, unpalatable to me, I will say the choice that I have executed earlier is wrong choice. So we say, don't decide based on the outcome, because outcome is always decided by very many factors. So therefore, on what basis you will make your choices, sir? Based on the current intellectual strength.
Sir, do choices always translate into action? Is it possible that sometimes the best choice may be not to act?
Correct. Sometimes it is better not to act. When we say that, what we mean is we don't need to be reacting to the situation. It is better not to react to certain situations in life. It's unnecessary. For example, when someone is disturbing you, there's no necessity that you have to immediately go and react. Say, for example, when a person comes and says, "You are a monkey," I don't have to start responding to that saying, "You are a donkey." It's not necessary at all, actually speaking. If he calls me a monkey, what I have to do first?
Stop.
Check. You have a tail? No, right? That means what? You are not a monkey. When you are not a monkey, why do you? See, if someone in the street were to call Ishwaran, I will turn back. Right? When I was small, I used to cherish going to, in Mylapore, I don't know. In Mylapore, there is a temple, very famous temple, Shiva temple. I used to go to that temple. Not for God or anything. Don't think, nothing. That's not the reason. The reason was this. People will be standing there and calling Ishwara, 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 they'll be calling. I used to get a kick out of it. You go there and stand. If someone were to call Ramesh, I will not turn back. Why should I turn back? Because that's not me. You see, many a times we react to situations where there is no necessity for us to react, respond, act. Just leave and move. That doesn't mean passively you have to reconcile to something. Imagine, as we are having this interview, one person walks in and starts disturbing. We cannot say, "We will not react, sir. You only told you should not react. Keep quiet." There you have to step in and say, "Stop it. Shut up.
Right.
Don't make noise. Keep quiet." We have to interfere there. Depending upon whether you are obligated to respond, you respond. If you are not obligated, you are not obliged to do, then there is no need for you to do reactions. So at times when you say, what time? What basis? Again we go back to the basic question. On what grounds, on what basis you are going to say, I am going to react, I am not going to react. In the areas where there is a obligation, then you have to react. Where you are not obligated, there is no necessity for you to react. You can be quiet. That's better.
So we are actually coming back again and again to penetrative thinking. And keeping that at the backdrop, what is the ideal reason to act?
As I said, ideal reason for a person to act is his obligatory duties. It's only when you are obligated to do something, you do. If you are not obligated, you are not. But then this is one of the greatest problem of at least Indian mentality. The problem is we have started experiencing this concept of obligations and duties as sort of a burden on our shoulders. I have a duty, I have a duty. Duty has become sort of a Frankenstein chasing us. I was scared of it. Whereas life teaches you to live based on obligations, because we have no clarity of understanding what is meant by obligation. What is obligation first? Then we need to go back to what is my obligation. See, exactly like a medical student will understand what is the general anatomy of the body first. What is a liver? What is a kidney? What is heart? He understands that per se first. Then when he goes to practice medicine, there he asks the question, how this kidney is functioning? What is the condition of this particular kidney? Now, most of us, when it comes to life, we straight away start living. It's like a doctor, without studying the anatomy, straight away comes to practice. We call him what?
Quack.
He is not a doctor, we say. Why? Because yes, that's how we all live our life. That's why there is a tremendous confusion we have. So if you ask, sir, how am I to choose? I say, all your choices should be based on what is my obligation. Then we ask the question, sir, on what basis I have to choose my obligations? And how am I to ensure that I am doing my obligation? Because the general perception that we have about obligations and all that is pain. Yes, but then there is a special significance to it. So what do we say is action always means what, sir? Exertion, effort. If there is no exertion or effort, we don't call that as action. It will be treated as inertia. You know that law of inertia?
Correct.
Inertia, that is. Inertia is not called as action. Action means effort. Effort, exertion always means sacrifice. That's where action becomes obligation. So action is equal to effort. Effort is equal to sacrifice. Sacrifice is equal to obligation. So when this alignment happens, see, to make it a little easier, you have mother caring for a child and the caretaker taking care of the child. You know, we fix, no, caretakers. What do we call them?
Nannies.
Nannies. Nanny has a timing. She says, morning 8 to evening 5, I will be there with the child. 5 o'clock, as she is about to leave, 4:58, the child says, I want to use the washroom. It will take 20 minutes for that child to finish. She has to be there. Extra 20 minutes. That extra 20 minutes for nanny is same. She will tell the child, why can't you get it at 4:30? By 4:50 I would have finished. 5 o'clock I can leave. It's the pain. Whereas for the mother, what is it? For mother, it's not a burden at all, actually speaking. But for nanny, it's a burden. So she thinks the duty is burdensome. For other, same action. Remember, action is same. One feels the burden, other is not feeling the burden. The question is, why? What is the difference? The difference is, one is performing it as obligation, another one is considering this as a duty in their life. I'm supposed to do it, sir. I'm paid for that. I'm doing it. That's it. Anything extra I do, you pay extra. If you are willing to pay extra, I'm willing to go that extra. That is where action becomes burdensome. Otherwise, action is not burdensome. Remember, action will never tire a person. It is the weight of the action you are experiencing. Why? Because you are treating it based on factors which are not to be factored in. That's how you make a choice. Choices were based on obligation.
This was really interesting, sir. We moved from choices and actions to obligations and duties. Thank you for coming. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Stay with us for yet another episode of Wellness Wisdom.
Click on the bell icon to watch our latest videos.